kitties! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira. I'm better known as Africa on social media, and for those of you who are new to my channel, I am an artist that loves to talk about dolls, cartoons, TV shows, movies, and in this video I want to talk about the live action series of One Piece that's on Netflix right now, and I also wanted to share my comparisons with the live action series and the anime. And I also decided to come back after a while because I was very sick. I had the flu, and I also lost my voice in the process, so I couldn't really make any videos or just do anything at all. And I wanted to come back. I wanted to talk about the One Piece live action series. I wanted to give you something new because I usually just talk about dolls and cartoons regarding dolls in this channel, so this is something a little different. I also wanted to talk about the performances of the cast. I wanted to talk about the makeup, the prosthetics, the special effects, basically just my opinion overall. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Before I start with this commentary, I wanted to give you a warning and a disclaimer that there's going to be spoilers regarding the anime and the Netflix series, well, the Netflix adaptation. So if you haven't seen any of those, I suggest you go ahead and watch it. I think it was a really nice watch. You'll have fun. At least watch the live action one instead of the anime, because the anime is a lot longer than the live action. So go ahead and watch it before you get to this video. So One Piece is an anime slash manga created by Eiichiro Oda about a young pirate named Luffy who wishes to become the king of pirates and thus sets on an adventure to find the One Piece treasure and also find his crew. We start off the One Piece series with the East Blue Saga, and in the Netflix adaptation they decided to do 5 out of the 8 arcs that are in East Blue. Those 5 are Romance Dawn, Orangetown, Syrup Village, we also have Baratie, and lastly we have Arlong Park. Now the other missing storylines, the other missing arcs are going to be introduced in season 2, and that's when we're also going to be introduced to the 6th member of the Straw Hat crew, which is Chopper. So let's first start off with the first arc of the East Blue Saga, which is Romance Dawn. Now in the Netflix adaptation, Romance Dawn is done in about 2 episodes. This is where we are introduced with Luffy's character, his backstory, and we're also introduced with 3 major important characters of the anime, which is Kobe, Garp, and Shanks. So these are very important characters. So if you watch the anime, pay close attention to all of those 3 characters. And minor changes were regarding the introduction of Zoro and Luffy's first interaction with each other. It's a little different than it's done in the anime, but it's in a very similar way. It's just the setting that is much more different, especially other important instances that happen in Romance Dawn with Zoro's character are done very much differently because of the setting. Another difference is the Nami's introduction. Now Nami is introduced in Orangetown, while in the live action adaptation she's introduced in Romance Dawn. Because Nami was introduced earlier on, there's the fight scene that happens between Luffy and Axe Morgan is done a lot more differently. This time it's Luffy, Zoro, and Nami versus Axe Morgan, and if I can recall correctly, I think in the anime it's just Luffy the one fighting him one-on-one, and Zoro is the one that starts trying to fight Hempepo at this time. And Nami is just doing her own little thing, you know? She wasn't even there to begin with. And it is explained that in the anime, she does go into the island where Luffy and Kobe are stranded in, which is Shell Island. This is an island that is a marine base. And Nami's whole side adventure was to find the Grand Line map that Buggy stole beforehand. So this is why when we go in the anime and she is introduced in Orangetown, it's because she wants to steal the Grand Line map from Buggy. Earlier in the Romance Dawn arc in the live action adaptation, she steals the map from the marine base instead of stealing it from Buggy. Now, Orangetown is when we get to meet our second villain of the East Blue Saga. This is where we get to meet Buggy the Clown. Now, I really like this interpretation of Buggy. He seems to be more threatening and more of a serious character instead of how he is in the anime. So I really like that change that they did for him. And some changes that is done is very minor. They didn't introduce Richie, who is the lion of and Buggy's pirate crew. He's really cool. I mean, Rich is just a funny character, but I'm sure they wouldn't have brought a lion and, you know, an animal handler for this. It would have been more money and more time. So it was really nice to just mention his character and not do anything about it. Another character that was scrapped from the live action series was the storyline and the character Chocho. He was a villager dog that stayed behind in Orangetown even right after Buggy bombed and destroyed that part of the town. He stayed guarding the area where his owner unfortunately died, and I think it happened way before Buggy destroyed it. He was just a dog that stayed there and stayed defending it and protecting it, which is a very beautiful story. But because of the adaptation, I don't think they even had enough space to introduce this. And again, animal handlers, training, it would have been a lot of work, so they scrapped it completely. Another thing that they did change was the way Buggy's character is a lot different, and the way he handles the villagers in the live action is a lot more menacing than it was in the anime. So in the live action series, Buggy still destroyed the town, but now he took the villagers hostage and he used them as an audience for his circus skits. Now, this is very scary. He basically had them as slaves, and in the anime is a little bit more different. The villagers ran away and they found a safe place in the island away from him, and Buggy just kept destroying parts of the island. He didn't really bother the villagers. Well, he did destroy their houses, but he didn't do anything to them per se, right? So like I mentioned before, Buggy is a very menacing character. He was very scary in a way that, you know, I still didn't understand why a lot of the fandom were oogling this man, at least the character, because I couldn't understand the actor. He's pretty handsome, but the character in regards, I was just very scared of him. And not only that, but I felt like this character in general just looks like he doesn't shower. So I was like, I don't understand why people like him, you know? And he had these people as hostages, so I wouldn't really be interested in him. But I know this is just fiction. This is fiction, and you know. So I understand where you're getting at. Another thing that I wanted to point out regarding Buggy's character is that his devil fruit is a lot more powerful than it is intended in the adaptation, because his weakness regarding his devil fruit is that he always has to have his feet on the floor or some kind of floor, right? Or else his powers are just not going to work that well. And this is when he's floating around, because his devil fruit is that he can separate his body parts as much as he wants and float and do everything around, right? But he always has to have his feet on the ground. But in the adaptation, it's just never mentioned that. I mean, his feet was everywhere, girl. His feet was everywhere. So I think it's a much more powerful devil fruit than in the anime. So yeah, basically this guy's invincible, okay? Now we're headed to the third arc of the East Blue Saga, which is Syrup Village, and this is where we introduce to the character of Usopp, which is the third member of, well, not the third, the fourth member of the Straw Hat crew. And this is also where the Straw Hats get their first ship called the Going Merry. This is the figure that I have here. We're also introduced to romance between Usopp and Kaya, something that was not done in the anime and the manga, which is something that I really love that they included. Now, some of the changes that were done were 4 major changes. So the first one is that they got rid of Django's character. Now, Django was the vice captain of Kuro's crew. Kuro is the main villain of this arc, and they also changed the final battle between Kuro and Luffy. This is where everyone starts fighting at the entrance of the village, and in the Netflix adaptation, because they eliminated Django, they decided to put the fight scene inside the house where Kaya lives, which I think it was a more resourceful thing to do. The third thing that I wanted to point out was the other characters that were not introduced in Syrup Village for the Netflix adaptation. Now, these 3 kids were one of Usopp's crew. That was like his first pirate crew with these 3 kids. They really looked up to Usopp because, again, Usopp's character, he's just a liar, and he made a lot of these stories of him fighting people and just fighting sea creatures. And these kids just ate that up, you know. And kids are very impressionable, and they were the only ones that really believed in Usopp, as well as Kaya. She also believed in Usopp. And these kids were also a big help regarding the fight between Kuro and Luffy. They were the ones that guided Kaya outside of the house before Kuro could even kill her. So that was a really nice thing to do. But because, again, they scrapped her character, Usopp is the one that decides to help and protect Kaya. As well as Nami, they each protect Kaya from Kuro. So that's the change that was done. I wanted to mention the kids' names because I did forget them. Characters' names are Ninjin, Piman, and Tamanegi. Those were the 3 characters that were scrapped from the adaptation. And lastly, they killed off Mary in the Netflix adaptation, and Mary was with the finances regarding Kaya, because Kaya was underage at that time. So he was the one that was handling the finances before she became an adult. Now, Mary was the original owner of the Going Merry, and he was the one that ends up giving the Straw Hats the ship as a form of gratitude for saving him and saving Kaya. But because he was killed off in the adaptation, Kaya is the one that gives them the Going Merry instead, which I think is still very pretty. It's a very beautiful moment because this is where we get a very tender moment between Usopp and Kaya, and this is where they share a kiss, and this is where, a sorrow goodbye. And the 4th arc of East Blue Saga is one of my favorites, along with the 5th one, which is Arlong Park. The Baratie is where we get to introduce to Sanji's character, his backstory. It's very similar to the anime, so not a lot of changes are done there. The only changes that I can tell you from the anime and the Netflix adaptation is the fight scene that happens with Luffy and Don Krieg, which was the main villain of this particular arc. But in the Netflix adaptation, they basically scrapped it off. Not entirely, because instead of Luffy defeating Don Krieg, instead is done to Mihawk. Now, Mihawk is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and he was the one that defeats Don Krieg and his pirate crew in the Netflix adaptation. Now, we then have more time to establish the relationships between the Straw Hat crew, and everything is pretty much the same. They just rushed in a little bit more of Nami's betrayal of the crew and how she abandons them in front of them, and she leaves with the Arlong pirates, Arlong and his crew, and that's where the betrayal happens. Now, I don't recall that being like that. I think Nami disappears at night. She runs off without them knowing, and they just follow her behind, and they actually find her. Zoro and Mihawk's fight is pretty much the same. I think the performances regarding Zoro at that moment, I didn't like it. It was kind of flat, not gonna lie. I think it was flat. But outside of that, everything was pretty much the same. Everything else was pretty much the same, so there's not a lot of changes done in that particular arc. Now, lastly, we're gonna head over to Arlong Park, and this is one of my favorites. I loved Arlong Park so much. I actually love the performances. I love the casting done for Arlong and his crew. I think they did a really good job with the prosthetics, the makeup. I think the only nitpick that I had regarding the makeup for the fisherman characters were Arlong in particular, because his nose, I wish that the structure was a little bit more sturdier. I wish that they had something that would make it stay and not wobble as much, and that really just irked me. But that was just my little nitpick. Another thing was, I wish that they added some shoulder pads to make him look a lot bigger, because I know he's not as tall, and I know we cannot find people that are 7 to 8 feet, because the fisherman characters are very tall, abnormally tall. A lot of the characters in the One Piece universe are very obnoxiously tall. I wish that they added some shoulder pads for Arlong so he could look more menacing, so he could look a lot bigger in comparison to Luffy. But outside of that, I think he did a really good job. I loved the makeup that they did on every fishman. I think that was really good addition that they did. Now, some of the changes that happened in Arlong Park were some of the characters that were scrapped was Hachi. Now, Hachi is a very important character in the anime series. Hopefully they find a way to introduce him a lot better in the series if it continues on. And his character is the one that fights off with Zoro. Zoro and Sanji end up fighting Kurobi in the end, so they team up and they fight Kurobi.
Yeah, boot it up.
Other fights are pretty much to the T. Nami's backstory was changed a little bit, especially Bellamir's death. Now, Bellamir is the mom of Nami and Nojiko, and in the anime, she was killed off in front of the villagers. Everyone saw her execution. And I think that would have been more impactful if they kept it the same as in the anime, because in the Netflix adaptation, they just killed her off in front of her daughters inside the house. So the execution, I don't think everybody knew about it that much. I know they did, because they heard the gunshot, girl. The gunshot was loud and clear. But I wish that they could have kept it the same as in the anime, because that would have been more impactful, and it would make more sense as why the villagers are very scared of the fishermen. Another change that they did was that they added something, because the aftermath of Luffy and his crew defeating Arlong and the fishmen, Garp comes in, fucks shit up, he starts beating the crap out of Luffy. It's like a vendetta, and this is where we get the reveal that Garp is the grandfather of Luffy. Now, mind you, this reveal is not done until after Water 7. Like, at the end of Water 7, this is where it's revealed that Garp is Luffy's grandfather, and something else more important, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I actually forgot to include these two characters that appeared in Baratie. Now, these two characters are bounty hunters, Yosaku and Johnny. They were found by the Straw Hat crew, and one of them had scurvy, and this is how they got to the Baratie. Now, I just completely forgot about them. They're very funny. They were also a part of the Arlong Park arc as well, but I don't remember much about them. They were just very funny characters that give commentary on the fights between the Straw Hats and the Arlong Pirates, so not much of them is known afterwards, at least from my recollection. But yeah, these are two characters that really admired the Straw Hat crew. They also admired Zoro a lot because of his fighting skills, his swordsman skills, and yeah, they were also swordsmen, but they really sucked. They were awful. Now I wanted to talk to you about the performances of the Straw Hat crew, especially them. I also will talk about Garp, Kobe, and Henpeppo. But first, let's go with the Straw Hat crew. Now, I feel like everybody did a pretty good job. I really loved everybody's performance. I would say my favorite out of the 5 was Luffy and Sanji. Like, especially Sanji. Like, I could see how much he worked on his character. People said that he did boxing, he did a lot of training, he started cooking, he started learning to do a lot of things in order to prepare for the role of Sanji, and I absolutely loved him. He really did Sanji justice, because I do like Sanji in some respects, but he is really overbearing, and I think in After Time Skip, he will go as far as saying that Oda really destroyed his character. Like, he just becomes a shell of who he used to be. I don't know. That's just me. Usopp was so much fun as well. I really got annoyed by him, and I'm saying this in a good way because I really love Usopp in the anime, but this interpretation really made me annoyed, and I think this is why a lot of people really don't like Usopp's character in the anime, because they really call him the weakest link of the Straw Hat crew. He tends to run away all the time when it comes to fighting people, fighting villains, and I get that. I mean, this is gonna be a hot take, but I swear to you, I think that Usopp is a very realistic character of how people are in real life. Like, you mean to tell me that you would be like Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, who would face villains that are 10 times stronger than you? Bitch, I would be running away like Usopp does. I'll be lying my ass to just survive. And this is what people do in real life. I don't understand why people just hate his character so much. I feel like he's a very realistic aspect of what humans are. We're not superhuman like Luffy. We could be, but it's something that you're born with. Like, when you really go back to his backstory, like, he learned how to do that. You know, Usopp did not learn how to do that, okay? That's just me. That's my hot take. Don't drag me on this. This is how I really feel about this shit.
I said what I said. Okay, well, what you said was some bull.
I liked Nami as well. Nami was okay. Like, I didn't hate her. I didn't love her. She was okay. She did a good job. Luffy was so joyous to me. I loved seeing him perform. Now, I think a lot of people have second thoughts with him because his accent or just how he spoke English. Now, let me tell you something. English is not his first language, okay? He's Spanish speaking like me. I loved him. He really gave Luffy vibes, and even outside his acting, when you see his interviews, he still gives off Luffy vibes, and I think Oda did a great job casting him. It was a lot of good things. It was really good. Really good. Now, sadly, my least favorite performance was Zoro. I felt like Zoro's performance was really bland in comparison to his character. I think his role and how he portrayed Zoro in this series seemed more like Zoro time skip rather than before. Because Zoro had more spunk before. I don't know. He just seemed very egotistical and very like... Se cree el más que más, ¿me entiendes? Se cree el... He had a big ego, bitch. Until Mihawk defeated him with a little sword. It was a knife, bitch. It was like butter knife. Yeah. And I didn't like that Raven voice that he had on. I was like, dude, you don't speak like that. Stop talking like that. Stop it. Stop it, because I really loved his natural voice. It just suited Zoro better than the voice that he forced out. When it comes to the Marines, let's talk about Kobe. I know people love Kobe. I love me some Kobe. But I will tell you something right now. He was doing white people shit. I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, eavesdropping on conversations. He was butting in. I was like, yo, this is white people shit. White people shit. But he still did a good job. Like, the actor did a really great job with Kobe. I loved him, but there were some scenes where I was just like, you lucky Garp likes you and Hempepo, you know? Garp was good. I like Garp. He had a little accent to him. Something that shocked me is that people had accents. I was like, what the fuck? Mihawk having a British accent? I was like, this is not... unexpected. It was unexpected, but I still loved his performance regardless. I was just shocked. I was like, you're British? Peppo was funny as hell. He did his role really well. He ate that shit up. I was like, you did a good job. You did a good job, bitch. There were some scenes, when I got like, there were some scenes where I was thinking, this could be used in BL romances, like for real. Like when it came to Kobe and Hempepo, like interaction, or like Hempepo and Zoro, or like there were certain interactions, certain dialogues that really seemed to me like romance, like BL romances. Like swear to you, swear. A character that didn't talk about a lot was Shanks. He did a good job. I like Shanks. Shanks though, he looked like a hobo. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, yo, I know you're pirates, but what the fuck? You should at least clean yourself up a little bit, you know? I like the crew. The crew was so much fun. I liked that fight scene that they had when they start shooting shit, and then you got Yasop, #1 best dad in the world. Yasop, he start guns a-blazing, shooting shit. He did a really good job. I don't know, that scene was really, really nicely done. I love that scene. That's my favorite part of seeing Shanks and his crew in action. That was really good. Alvida is wonderful. I loved her. She's like, I'm like, you're very pretty. I was like,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Who's the most powerful pirate on the seas?
I bitch you. I don't know if I forget any other characters to mention. Nojiko was also really good, and I also like the I would call him, what the fuck was he? He's a chief of the village. Girl, I forgot his fucking name, but he has a lot of scars on his face. The casting was perfection with him, and Nojiko too. Like the fact that people be hating on her because she black, I'm like, y'all are racist motherfuckers. Oh, Nojiko shouldn't be black. I'm like, girl, I don't give a fuck. She did a good job. Period. She did a good job. Shut the fuck. I liked her performance. The Arlong pirates, I loved Kurobi's makeup. Oh, I loved it. Little tooth like here. Really funny. Really, really fun. I also like Chu. Chu was just... I love the makeup done. It was nice. It was nice. I loved it. I had a lot of fun. I loved Arlong. I love the scene where he's in the chair and there's a party going on. And he's like... That made me think, oh, is that a black guy, Kaz? Is that a black guy under all that makeup? And it was. I loved it. It was so much fun. I loved it. I loved Arlong. I got to talk about Kuro. Captain Cunty Kuro. I loved his performance. His performance was phenomenal. I don't know. I had a lot of fun. I was like, oh, kill me. I don't care. You can kill me. Really good. Really good. I talked about Buggy before, so I don't think I have anything else to say. I know some of you guys were crazy about him. Some of you guys were, oh my god. The only one that it really got me like, oh my god, he's so cute. Sanji. And Usopp. Usopp was really handsome. I was like, but again, he was annoying me with the whole lying thing. I was like, boy, I can't take you seriously. So Sanji was my #1. Zeph was so to the T of who he is as a character. He was like the same. He was a Gordon Ramsay kind of bitch. I was like, oh my god. I loved him. I loved him. But that's all I have to say for this video. As long for my commentary, I think this is all I have to say. Overall, I enjoyed the Netflix adaptation. I'm not gonna lie. The Netflix adaptation is something that I can only watch one time. And I would recap it just to have everything memorized for the second season that's coming up. I'm excited to see how Chopper's character is going to be presented, and I'm not sure if they're going to introduce Robin, and I know there's going to be a lot of debate because Robin in the anime, at least before time skip, she was a lot darker, so a lot of people assumed that she was black, but after time skip, she just turns pale white, and we don't know how she's going to be in the Netflix adaptation, so either way, I think she's going to be good. Depending on who it is, Oda, you know, he's gonna be the one casting, so I think he's gonna do a good job with the casting of these characters. There's also gonna be the introduction of Smoker. We see at the end of the episode 8, we see a small glimpse of Smoker. But Smoker, number one. I know people choose Garp or Shanks, but Smoker. Smoker's not even that old, but I'm like excited to see who is the one that is casted as Smoker in the show. I'm excited to see Crocodile. I wanted to show you the Luffy figure with Going Merry because I told you guys in the video that I wanted to show you guys, so here it is. Look how beautiful he looks. I think that's all I have to say for this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click on the notification bell to get notified of new videos. I'm so glad I'm back. Thank you guys for your patience and for waiting for this video because it took a long time for me to come back. And let me know what you think about the Netflix adaptation. If I forget something, you can point it out in the comment section. Let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.